While you're standing, turn me to Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. My presentation today overall may be a little bit unorthodox in comparison to how I typically present and write. But this is just the way God gave it to me for this morning. If you're new here, unfamiliar here, first time guest, second time guest, we're typically in series the majority of the Sundays throughout the year. But I preached a Mother's Day message last week, and next week we have a guest, so I didn't want to start a series in between. So this is what God had given me for this week. This story has been on my mind for about a month now as I ran across it in my reading the Bible in a year. Didn't know that it would be for today, but here we are. I'm just going to read one verse, but I challenge you to keep your apps open and your Bibles open in Mark chapter 5. I'm just going to read verse 36, and then we'll work this whole story titled, depending on what your Bible is, mine and my Bible is called Jesus Heals a Woman and Jairus' daughter. Jairus' daughter is going to be the focus of our message today. Verse 36 says, "But overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler of the synagogue, 'Do not fear, only believe.'" Come on your way down. Tell at least 3 people like you really mean it, "I believe Jesus." Come on, that's 1. You got 2 more. That's 2. That's 3. I believe Jesus. I believe Jesus. We live in a world where you don't really know what to believe. Republicans tell you one thing, and then the Democrats tell you another thing. The rich say one thing, and then those who are struggling financially and in poverty tell you another. Google gives you one piece of advice. ChatGPT gives you a second piece of advice. And then the doctor gives you a third piece of advice. Who do you believe? Your friends will say, "Go for it," while your family is saying, "Play it safe." Everybody's talking. Everybody sounds convincing. How many of y'all remember Ripley's Believe It or Not? We still have one here. Did y'all go there when y'all were a kid? If you didn't, it's a good thing. Take your kids there, let them check it out. It's a wax museum, and you walk in, you see stuff that makes no sense, things that look impossible, things that make you say in your mind, "That cannot be real." And the whole idea is simple: believe it or not. In other words, it's true, but it's on you to decide what you're going to do with that truth. I believe that is the tension that we live in every single day. Why? Because life is showing you one thing while God has already said another. So the real question is not, what am I seeing? The real question is, whose voice am I trusting? That's exactly where Jairus finds himself in the Gospel of Mark chapter 5 on today that we're going to look at. His situation is speaking, the people are speaking, but Jesus is speaking too. And in the middle of all of those voices, Jairus has to decide, whose report will I believe? And that's a question I'm posing to this audience today and those who are watching online, is whose report will you believe? Will you believe the report of your circumstances and your situations that are coming to a head right now in your life? Will you believe the people that are in your ear? Or will you believe what Jesus and God the Father has already said to you? But I came here this morning to settle it. Somebody shout, "I believe Jesus." As we look at this story starring Jairus and Jesus, I see at least 3 stages of faith. I've been reading this text, and many of you have for years and for decades. I've even preached this, I'm sure, a couple times over the past 11 and a half years. But this week, I saw that there are some stages of faith. And I believe that most of us in here, if not every last one of us and those watching online, we are at one of these three stages of faith that we're going to talk about. Stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3. Now, these aren't stages of faith that you go through 1, you go through 2, you go through 3, and then you've graduated and you stay there forever. But I believe that whenever we find ourselves at a crossroads in life, when multiple voices are speaking to us, the people, the circumstances, and God the Father, the Word of God, Jesus Christ, that we have to navigate whose voice will we believe, whose voice will we listen to, and we can find ourselves over and over and over again having to navigate to stage 1 of faith, stage 2 of faith, and then ultimately stage 3 of faith. So it's two things that I want you to do this morning. One, I want you to identify by the time we get to the end of this message, what stage are you currently in? Are you in stage 1? Are you in stage 2? Or are you in stage 3? Now, if you're not in any of these stages, just keep living. Why? Because life is going to life. Life is going to happen. There's going to be problems. It's going to be issues. We're going to have trials. We're going to have storms. We're going to have tribulations. And when those things come upon us and we have to face them, we'll have to go to stage 1, then stage 2, and then stage 3. All right, y'all ready to deal with it this morning? Let's go. We're going to deal with this story. We're just going to have Bible study. If this is your first time here, we have Bible study on Sunday morning. And if you want to know why, look at your neighbor and say, the reason why we got to have Bible study on Sunday is because you won't come to Bible study on Wednesday. And you missed a good one this past Wednesday. It's all right. Let's start at verse 21 and let's walk it out. Verse 21 says, and when Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a great crowd gathered about him, and he was beside the sea. I'm going to read verse 22 so you understand and see who this person is that we're talking about today. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing him, he fell at his feet, and he implored him earnestly, saying, my little daughter is at the point of death. She's 12 years old. We discovered that later. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live. So here's stage 1. And before I tell you what it is, let me tell you where I believe Jairus is at this moment in verse 21. He's in a different place, in a different stage in verse 21 than where he is in verse 22 and 23. In 22 and 23, he comes to Jesus and he makes his declaration, his decree, and his prayer made known to Jesus Christ. But in this moment, in verse 21, Jairus is at home. 12-year-old daughter, she's sick. Now, he's a ruler in the synagogue. He's not a priest. He's a ruler in the synagogue. I would say he's probably more so something like, if you're familiar with our church, like the in-service coordinator, a producer, right? He's probably the one who navigates the services, make sure everybody who's speaking is on program, and make sure everybody gets up on time. That's what he does. He manages the sanctuary at the temple. So he's not a priest, yet he's a part of the priestly religious community. So because of his status, I'm going to assume and believe that his daughter has had the best doctors. Why wouldn't she? Somebody of this prestige and this notoriety, I'm going to assume that his daughter has had the best doctors in the city. I'm going to assume that he has had the ability to purchase, if she needed medicine, the best medicines in the city. I'm going to assume that the priest has even been to his house and anointed his daughters and prayed over her, believing that the God of heaven and earth, the God of Israel, was going to heal her. Now, here's the problem with this situation. He hears that Jesus is in town. Anywhere we read in the Bible where it says Jesus showed up, what happens? The crowds also show up. Why? Because he has a reputation of healing masses of people, delivering, freeing people, casting out demons and devils, and even feeding thousands of people at one time on multiple occasions. So whenever Jesus showed up, got off a boat, and word got around town, people would come so that they could get something from Jesus. So Jairus hears about Jesus, and he has a conundrum. There's tension in his life now because, remember, who's he connected to? He's connected to the religious community. Guess what the relationship between the religious community and Jesus was at that time? It wasn't good. They didn't like Jesus. They hated him, and ultimately they were the cause of what? Of Jesus' death. Now, we don't have any record that says that Jairus hated Jesus or disliked Jesus, but what we do know is he was connected to those who disliked him. So if anything, at the least, he was supposed to dislike Jesus as well. He's supposed to roll with the community that he is a part of. But now he sits at home with his daughter, who has had potentially the best doctors, the best medicine, the chief priest laying hands on her, and guess what? She's still on the brink of death. And the only potential that she has to live is possibly me going to this man named Jesus, who I'm supposed to hate and dislike and stand against. He got an issue. But he's tried everything on his own. So the question he has to ask himself is, do I stay here and watch my daughter die and I've tried everything else, or do I try Jesus? The person who is stuck at stage one is weighing the cost of continuing to do things on their own despite it not working or taking the risk to come to Jesus. Because that's what Jairus did. He had to take a risk. What if I go to Jesus and I lose my job, I lose my career? Is that going to cause me to lose the ranch? Is that going to cause me to lose the house? He had to sit back and weigh the cost of taking the risk of losing his daughter or losing everything else so that she can live. The person who is at stage one is weighing the cost of what? Continuing to do things on their own despite not working or taking the risk to come to Jesus. Pastor, what's stage one? Here's stage one from our writers. I believe in Jesus enough to surrender control. Before you ever get to a place where you've even brought your request to Jesus and believing that Jesus can deliver it or free it or fix the situation, you got to first come to grips. Will I stop trying to do life alone? Will I stop trying to do it on my own, do it my way? And will I submit or surrender control to Jesus Christ? If that's you and this is the stage that you're at, let me ask you this question. If what you're doing isn't working, why keep trying it? Amen. If you can't fix it, why keep trying to fix it? If what's broken you ain't been able to repair it, why would you keep trying to repair it? If this is the stage that you are in and you can be saved for 40 years, but this situation right here has you sitting at home wondering if I want to try Jesus. And you done tried Jesus for 20 years, 30 years, and 40 years, but this situation seems different and I don't know who I can trust right now. And you know what's crazy? I said this in the first service too. I failed myself for so many years trying to follow my own plan, and yet in 2026, I'm still up here trying to question, is my plan better than God's plan? Look at somebody and say, have you lost your mind? You done messed so much stuff up over the last 3 or 4 decades of your life, and you're wondering if you should trust or try Jesus right now? Look at somebody and say, go ahead and try him. Go ahead and try him. As a matter of fact, Jesus wants you to try him. That's why the writer in 34:8 said, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. The reason why he would say that is because he was letting you know if you just try him one time, I promise you'll never want to try nothing else again. Somebody say, he's so good. He's good. If you're at this crossroad of do I leave home and go and try Jesus, you've tried everything else. Why not try Jesus? Let me say this to you. If this is you, you're watching online. It's okay to come to Jesus when you're in trouble. I say this, I've been saying this for years. As long as when the trouble is over, you stay with Jesus. That's the caveat. That's the caveat right there. It's okay to come to Jesus when you're in trouble. This is what the devil tell you as you entertain. I'm in trouble. I've tried to fix it. I can't do nothing about this situation. I can't do nothing about what's going on. Maybe I should go to Jesus. The devil comes to you and starts whispering. It starts saying, oh, now you want to try Jesus. Because you need a little help. Because you don't want to lose your job. You don't want to lose your marriage. You don't want to die on this sick bed. You want to be healed. You don't want to lose your house. You don't want to lose your car. Now you want to come to Jesus. You ought to look at the devil and say, you doggone right, I don't want to die. I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my marriage. And I've tried to fix it and keep it on my own. I might as well try Jesus. When has Jesus ever said, only come to me if you got it all together? If I could get it all together on my own, I wouldn't need Jesus. That's why he said, I came for those who were sick. Came for those who were broken. I came for those who needed me. I didn't come for those who were well. Somebody shout, I'm going to try Jesus. And I believe Jesus. Mark 5:22. Let's go. If you're at stage 1, you got to get to stage 2. Stage 1, Jairus is at the house. He hasn't even moved yet, but he's made a decision that I'm not going to stay here and keep trying to fix it on my own. But guess what? That's not the end of the story. Too many of us have come to church on Sunday morning, made a decision that I'm not going to do it on my own. I'm not going to keep trying to fix it on my own. But then when we leave church, we go back to trying to fix it and live on our own. We got to move from stage 1 to stage 2. What happens in stage 2? Look at verse 22. We just having Bible study. Then came, what? The rulers of the synagogue. Then look at verse 33. And he implored to Jesus. He fell at his feet and he implored him earnestly, saying, my little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be made well, and she will live. What's stage 2? Here it is. I trust Jesus enough to take it to him. Let that sit in there. Stage 1 was what? I believe in Jesus enough to surrender control. Stage 2 is I trust Jesus enough to take it to him. Now, let's not gloss over what took place when he took his request to Jesus. Let's look at it. What is the first thing that he does? When he sees him, he falls at his feet. What does falling down do? What is it a presentation of? It's an act of submission. A whole lot of us have taken our concerns, our issues, our problems in life to Jesus, but we never said, I'll submit to you, Jesus. All we said was, Jesus, come and fix the problem in my life. And Jesus is like, I don't have no problem fixing that, but I want to know first, will you submit to what I tell you to do? Because that's what faith is. So stage 2 is connected not just to bringing your request to Jesus instead of you trying to fix it on your own, but it's also saying, I surrender. I wave the right flag. That's what the yes was all about. That 15 minutes ago, when we were saying yes, yes to your will, yes to your way, that's what that was all about. It was saying, I submit unto you. I surrender unto you. When 2 armies were fighting in the Bible days, guess what happens when somebody raised the white flag? They mean that I submit. We ain't got to fight. You win. That's what we need to be saying to Jesus, because a whole lot of us is fighting Jesus. And all Jesus is saying, I just want you to wave the right flag to say that you're going to allow me to take control of your life. So when I tell you what to do, you'll do it. But before we move to stage 3, I need to know, are you submitted to me? Because if you're not, ain't really nothing I can do for you. Because if it don't make sense to you, you ain't going to do it anyway. When you're submitted to God, it don't have to make sense. It just got to be God. It don't matter what it looks like, what it feels like. When I'm submitted, I just follow. So the first thing he did was show his act of submission, and then he implored him. That means that he begged, he urged, he pleaded intensely. His plea, his imploring shows us that he believes Jesus can stop her from dying. I believe it. I know you can. I've heard enough about you. I've heard enough about your testimony. Maybe I saw what you did. I don't know if he saw anything before, but all we do know is he believed that Jesus could come to the house, lay his hands on his daughter, and she would be made well. I thought about that. And brother, I was like, hold on, but people have went to Jesus before. And Jesus didn't even go to their house. He would just speak a word. So I had to do some research, and I was like, how many times has this happened? And all Jesus did was speak a word, and I found out it was on 3 separate occasions. The Syrophoenician woman, she came to him and said, hey, I need you to heal my daughter. And Jesus spoke the word, and she was healed. The centurion servant, the centurion came and said, my servant is sick, about to die. Speak the word. You ain't even got to come to the house. And healed right there. He didn't even go to the house. And then we also had the Capernaum official's son. And guess what Jesus does? All 3 of those situations, he doesn't take a journey. He speaks a word, and they are healed. I got a question for you this morning. Can you still trust God when the way Jesus chooses to fix it for you doesn't look like the way he fixed it for others? Some of us are at a place where we've brought the problem and the issue and the situation to Jesus, and Jesus has said, come on, let's go on a journey. And we're like, I don't want to go on a journey, Jesus. Just speak it and fix it. And that's the reason why you can't get to stage number 3, because you're fussing about the fact that you don't want to go on a journey. You acting like a toddler. No, I want you to fix it now. I've seen you fix it quickly for others. Why we gotta go on a journey? What do you do when Jesus wants to take the long route with you after you've seen and heard him do it quick way for others? What do you do? I'm sorry. No, stop. But what do you do when you've seen it done quickly for so many others, and it seemed like Jesus is just taking his sweet, precious time for no reason whatsoever? I believe you can do it in 24 hours, God. Why it's been 12 months? It ain't even a question of my faith. It's a question of why you doing me like this, Jesus? Why are you treating me like this? Do you love them more than you love me? Sheesh. Let's keep going. Let's look at this verse. 24. And he went with him. And then a great crowd followed him in the throng about him. Verse 24 through 34 takes a bit of a turn when Jesus heals a woman who had an issue of blood for 12 years. I don't think it's coincidence that her issue started the same year that this daughter was born. But go home and work with that if you want. Think about that. Jairus' daughter is about to die, and Jesus now wants to make a pit stop because somebody touched his robe. Can you put yourself in Jairus' situation? I got the miracle worker walking with me on the way to my house. My situation is solved. It's resolved. I ain't got to shed no more tears. Broken heart's about to be fixed in about 27 or 28 and a half minutes. 2 more blocks, we finna be at the house. He's going to touch my daughter. She's going to be healed, and we can party, have a celebration, and start preparing for her 13th birthday party. But then Jesus stops. My daughter's about to die, and you want to talk about who touched your robe, Jesus? It's hard for me to believe that this man ain't thinking this is an inconvenience. But what he didn't understand was that this short detour was not a delay, but it was a development of his faith. That's the way that I see it. I never paid attention to this before, Misha. There's no way you can convince me that this is an accident. That this miracle just so happened to take place on the way to the house. Here's the thing. Jairus didn't know the news that was about to come. All he knew is Jesus on the way, touch my daughter, and she's going to be healed. But life, for a split second, for a few minutes, for however long it took to get to the house, is about to turn upside down. Because in a few verses, people from his house are going to come and say, it's too late. She dead. But here's the thing. I don't think it's a coincidence. Right before the news comes, in verse 35, guess what Jairus hears Jesus say in verse 34? Jesus is still, he done healed the daughter, he done healed the lady with the issue of blood for 12 years, and this is what he tells her in verse 34, daughter, your faith has made you well. Essentially, Jairus hears a sermon in a sentence about faith. One verse before he hears the most devastating news he has ever heard in his life. He hears Jesus say, according to your faith, you have been made whole. This was an intentional moment. This was an intentional miracle. This was an intentional lesson to prepare him and move his faith from one level to the next level, so when he hears the news, he doesn't walk away from Jesus. Right after he hears your faith has made you whole, he hears your daughter is dead. Here it is. The key to move from stage 2 to 3 is allowing your faith to be increased by the miracles God is doing around you even before he does it for you. Let me say it again for the person online. The key to move from stage 2 to 3 is allowing your faith to be increased by the miracles God is doing around you before he does it for you. Here's the problem, and this is what God showed me. Exactly, and I wrote it like he gave me. Some of you are becoming jealous by what God is doing around you when it was meant to increase your faith. You're sick and tired of hearing what God is doing in everybody else's life. And now you're mad and you're jealous and you're questioning God. When the whole purpose of it was to increase your faith so you can handle what was coming next. And you missing the moment. Why? Because you're listening to the wrong voice. Because Satan is sitting here telling you, look at what they did for them. Look at how he delivered them. Look at how he blessed them with a job. Look at how their business is thriving. And then you look at yourself and say, man, I wonder why God don't love me enough to do it for me. So now we're jealous. Now when we hear somebody else's testimony, it's a fake clap. Hallelujah! And in your spiritual eyes, you rolling your eyes. Oh, Lord. Coming on Wednesday night, intentionally coming late so you don't have to hear the testimonies of the believers. Look at verse 35. While he was still speaking, there came from the ruler's house, it'd be your own people, some who said, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? So as Jesus is talking to the woman, then the people from his house come, they tell Jairus, your daughter is dead. Essentially what they say is, stop wasting Jesus' time. First thing I want to acknowledge is, can you imagine the rush and the multitude of emotions that Jairus is having at this moment? Again, we were on our way, possibly 2 more turns off the donkey, and we at the house and my daughter is healed. And Jesus, all because, I wonder if this was the thought that came to him. All because you stopped to bless somebody else. Now my daughter's dead. We were almost there. Is it Jesus' fault? The question I have now is, how many of you, if that was you, you would have ran home? People come from your house, say, baby girl's dead. Jairus had 2 choices. Stay there and look to Jesus and say, what do we do? Or run home and see what he can do about the situation. How many of us at this very moment are running? We got the news. We saw what happened. It's final. It's over. So what does that do? For many of us, it takes us back to stage one, where we're wrestling with, am I trying to fix it, or am I letting Jesus fix it? Am I trying to resolve it? Am I trying to bring it back to life, or am I letting Jesus do it? That's the fight. That's the quandary. That's the tension. That's the conundrum right there. Is, do I stay with Jesus when I discover it looks like it's a waste of time? But what did Jairus do? He stayed right there. Second thing, it exposed the people their theological belief about Jesus. What do you mean by that, Pastor? They believe that Jesus can stop things from dying, but they didn't believe that he had the power to give life to what was already dead. That was their theological belief. They had a theology for prevention, but not resurrection. So some of us, we don't have no problem believing God when it's not actually already dead. The business is failing, the relationship is failing, but it's not necessarily over yet. But then when it looks like it's over, when it looks like the nail is in the coffin, that's when we walk away from Jesus. So we never make it to the stage 3 of faith because of our theological belief about Jesus. He can stop things from dying or failing, but he's not necessarily one that can resurrect things that have already failed and have already died. That's why some of you have already moved off from your dream, because you feel like it died. And what you expose without knowing is what you really believe about Jesus. That he could have stopped it from dying if he wanted to. He could have stopped it from failing if he wanted to, but he chose not to. So he's not a resurrector. Look at somebody and say, your theology is off. Think about this. Jesus overhears the people who are talking to Jairus. He steps in verse 36. He doesn't say anything to the doubters. What does he do? He speaks directly to Jairus. And what does he say? Do not fear, only believe. That's the word that God has given us. Do not fear, only believe. Let's work this phrase. Do not fear in the Greek here literally means stop being afraid. What this lets us know is that fear came in that wasn't there before. What do you do when fear rises up that wasn't there at the beginning? There was no fear at the beginning, but then when the crisis increased and enhanced, fear was there. And what Jesus is saying is fight the fear. And what do you fight it with? You fight it with what Jesus has said. Amen. But we don't run to Jesus. We just sit there and wrestle with the fear with our own wisdom and our own knowledge. Check this out. I love this part right here. Only believe. In the Greek, it's more accurately translated, keep on believing. Look at somebody and say, keep on believing. Keep on believing. In other words, what he was saying to Jairus is that you believed enough to leave your house. And you believed enough to come and ask me to heal your daughter. And you believed enough to start the journey. Why in the world would you go back home now without me? Keep on believing. And that's what God is saying to somebody up in here, is that you believe me in January. You believe me in February. You believed me in March. And you believe me in April. Why would you stop believing me in May? What is the difference between May and January when it comes to God? There is no difference. He's the same God today as he was yesterday and forevermore. Jairus is now at another crossroad. Does he continue to go with Jesus, Tanya? Despite what it looks like. I believe there's many in this room that this is the moment where we walk away from Jesus. Not necessarily walk away from being Christians, but this is just the moment where we stop trusting him for that. Why? So we stop praying about that. We stop fasting about that. Why? Because it's over. It's done. There's nothing else that can be done. And we go back to stage one, trying to figure it out on our own. But what Jairus chooses to do is to continue the path that he started on before he heard the news. Stage three is where things get expensive. Somebody shout, I don't understand it, but I still believe Jesus. Look at verse 38. What does it say? Verse 38 says, they came to the house of the ruler. Here's stage three. I trust Jesus enough to stick to his plan, even when it appears it's too late. Let me say it again. Stage three. I trust Jesus enough to stick to his plan, even when it appears it's too late. Situation said, it's over. It's pointless. The people said, she's dead. Stop wasting Jesus' time. But what does Jairus do? He keeps heading to the house with Jesus. Crisis never changed the plan. But for many of us, we allow crisis to change what we're doing. Jesus never said, oh my God, she's dead. Man, maybe we should do something different. The plan at the beginning was let's go to the house. And the plan never changed regardless of the crisis. Why are you changing the plan that God gave you all because a crisis now has shown up? How often are we on the path God told us to get on? And then crisis causes us, not God, to change the plans. When you have competing voices shouting different narratives, you have to choose to believe Jesus and stick to the plan he gave you. Somebody shout, they said it's over, but I believe Jesus. I'm done, but I want to give you 4 final nuggets. If you're going to believe Jesus, you got to do something. 4 things. Look at verse 39 to wrap this up. It says, and when he entered, he said to them, why are you making a commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but sleeping. If you're going to believe Jesus, you have to do number 1, let Jesus redefine what looks final. Let Jesus redefine what looks final. The people said she dead. Jesus said, he redefines it. She's not dead. She's just taking a nap. How can Jesus say that? Because he knows he's about to resurrect her. He's about to give life back to the thing, the person that was dead. Verse 40, it says, and they laughed at him. Of course, the people laughed at him. You know who these people are that's laughing at him? These are the people that's laughing at what Jesus said. These are the people that was closest to Jairus. These was family, close friends. Y'all think these were strangers that was at his house when his daughter died? His 12-year-old sick on the deathbed? These were his co-workers. These were people he went to church with. He was the religious people, his co-workers, the priests maybe. And they laughed at Jesus. And what does the Bible say that Jesus did after that? He put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went in where the child was. If you're going to believe Jesus, you not only got to let Jesus redefine what looks final, but you also, number 2, have to remove voices that feed fear. And like Jairus' situation, sometimes it's the people closest to you that you got to get out of your ear. It made sense what they were saying. Stop wasting Jesus' time. It's over. She's dead. There's no post there. They were closer to Jairus than they were closer to Jesus. They knew who Jairus was, but they didn't know who Jesus was. And just because we go to the same church, just because we related, because we got the same blood, none of the things matter when it comes to our faith. What happens next in verse 41? He took her by the hand and he said to her, Talitha Kumi, which means little girl, I say to you, rise. What was the father's role in her getting life back? Nothing. He didn't do nothing. He just sat there and watched. What was the mama's role? Nothing. She just sat there and watched. The only role they had in that moment, Paisley, was to take their hands off of it and let Jesus make it do what it do. Here's number 3. If you're going to believe Jesus, you have to release control to Jesus. He didn't call the doctors again. He didn't try another new medicine. He didn't call the priest in for another anointing. They just sat back and let Jesus do whatever he wanted to do. And he spoke, and he raised her up. Look at verse 42, our final verse we're going to read. Or verse 42 and 43. And immediately the girl got up and began walking, for she was 12 years of age, and they were immediately overcome with amazing. Final verse. And he strictly charged them that no one should know this. And then he gave them an instruction and told them to give her something to eat. Now, the context for that instruction was to show this ain't just a spirit, it's an actual body. Give her something to eat, nourishment, sustenance, and then you see that this is a real body with a digestive system, not a spirit. Similar to the way he said, touch my hands. Not a spirit, but he was human after flesh when he got up. But the whole point was he gave them instructions, and what did they have to do? They had to follow it. So if you're going to believe Jesus, you have to, 1, let Jesus redefine what looks final. 2, remove voices that feed fear. 3, release control to Jesus. And the last thing, number 4, obey even when it doesn't make sense. Maybe they didn't understand why she needed to eat. Maybe they didn't understand why we couldn't go tell anybody. The whole point was just do what I say. Just do what I say. And that's what's required if you're going to believe Jesus. I'm done. At my son's track meet yesterday, the teens were running. They were running the 100-meter hurdles. At the first hurdle, this girl falls, trips over the first hurdle completely. She's sitting on her butt, not on her face. She's literally sitting on her butt. And for that split second, I could see she had to say to herself, this race is over. As she's sitting on her butt, seeing the other racers run down through the next hurdle and the next hurdle after that. But out of nowhere, this voice comes out of the stands that says, get up, finish the race. Immediately, she has to decide, which voice do I listen to? The voice that says I've fallen and I can't get up? Or the voice that sees that the runners have already gone past the second and the third hurdle? Or does she heed to the voice in the stands that says, get up, finish the race? She decides to heed to the voice in the stands. She gets up, she takes off, she finished the race, and guess what, y'all? This girl finishes third. After at the first hurdle being on her butt, listening to the voice in the stands, not the voice in her head or the voice of the circumstances, she gets up, she gets a medal. All she needed was a voice that was louder than the fall. And I believe that voice today for us is Jesus. Regardless of what the circumstances are saying to us, regardless of what people are saying to us, Jesus is speaking too. And he's saying, do not fear. Only believe. And if you receive that by faith, just stand to your feet and shout, I believe